just done those two very delicate looser ones. This time I'm going to work into the watercolour a little bit more first of all, on individual parts, gradually pulling them together and trying to be loose parts in between. So we've got the in focus, the out of focus, the rough, the smooth, the light, the dark, the warm, the cool, and the colour hues. Something with these daffodils here, for instance, where we've got the warm yellows and cool yellows, and the difference in these blues and purples here as well. Just want to indicate the grasses, don't want to get into too much detail with all that background. Let's see how we do with this one then. So I'm going to be using a round brush a lot more, as well as the mop, and working into it and gradually blending out individual petals one into another. Before we start, let's look at the paints we've got. We've got the Russian Sonnet paints again. And you'll notice that all of these various colours are here already. We've got the cool yellow here, we've got the warmer through to oranges here, and then it's hard to see these, but we've got the warm and cool greens and the blues and purples as well. If you ever want a challenge, then here you are, because the drawing of this one even tested me. I still haven't got it quite right here, but I'll make do with it as it is now. Readjustments totally through this bit. Very difficult hitting all these flowers and petals to scale and right, I must admit. Started off right with the daffodils, but coming around this area here, and I have my word, it's hard. Right, let's make a start then, and I think obviously, as we'd be tempted to do, I think anybody would be tempted to do, I want to go straight onto these daffodils. What I'm going to do first is give them a wash of the lemon yellow, a very thin wash, clean the colours as possible. So where it goes very light we'll use it more thinly, and where it's remember that the watercolours always dry lighter than we put them on, so we're fairly safe on this. To give that a wash of that yellow all the way through there. Lemon yellow, aureolin yellow, if I had it in this palette I would use, because it's more transparent and nicer, but I haven't got it in this palette, so I'll just make do with this and just bring these bits of yellow, just bring something in from the edge here, just slightly to balance the composition. All of this composition is quite carefully balanced before I put the warmer colours in. So some of this I want to be nice and soft, delicately blending, and other parts I want to get a bit sharper on the edge. So while it's still wet, take some even deeper yellow, some more cadmium slightly, while it's still wet, and just blend that in. Let that just work its way in here. You can see now how light suddenly the other lemon yellow seems as I go warmer with this colour. It's drying off fairly quickly, so I'm able to put this colour in without it bleeding too much into the edges. Just there as well. It comes out deeper and deeper. I'm going to go to a more orangey cadmium deep, and while it's still wet again, drop that in each side of this, so we really get this feeling of the warm and light, warm and cool yellows. May even need to tint a little bit of green to this later as well. We'll just see how it goes. So that I've managed with the mop, because the mop is, these oval mops are lovely, they're quite fine, you can work with them to a lot of work without using a smaller brush. Right, that's established our yellows. Now, while it's still damp, I'm just going to take a little bit of very light emerald green and just tint that down into this. Right, let that dry off then. While that's drying off, we can start to work on some of these flowers. Again, I've got my small round brush ready if I need it, but I'm going to use the mop as much as I can. And we're going to sort of treat each petal here now individually. I'm going to start with a very, very light blue, I think, on those. Just putting my glazes on of this. In fact, looking at this, I think I can glaze the whole of that with this light blue first of all, as I did a little bit with the lemon yellow on the daffodils. Move blues down into here as well, just on the edges. It's all experimental for me too. These are all new colours to try and attain, or effects to try and attain, and I can't work as much as an impressionist if I'm working in this way either. So I've got to try and get the colours as near as damn it straight off. Make sure I keep these centres nice and light. I want the oranges to be later. Don't want to. And on each petal where the violet comes, we're going to just start to bleed that in there. Softly, subtly. And then I'm going to have to come back with a smaller brush and just blend them in a bit. Don't have any hard edges yet. I'm going to be doing that with the glazes a bit later. Just want soft edges at the moment. I'm going to have to work on a lot of these pencils almost individually. I can see that. Just letting that light blue glow through there, and then gradually, petal by petal, I should be able to come back into this and give each petal form. Now let's use a smaller brush and start to work on these pieces more individually. I'm going to go down to a warmer blue now. I'm looking at ultramarine before I go to a purple, and we'll start to work on these individual. I'm going to concentrate a bit more now on these independent individual petals. I'm using ultramarine, and then I'm going to come back in with a little bit of purple, almost individual petal painting. Again, I'm going to take my clean water and just blend these round. You can see I've got a slightly harder edge there to what I wanted, and I'm going to soften that round there now. And if I want it to be any darker, I can do that by just adding a bit more paint, wet into wet afterwards. I can go back and soften any edges I want to give myself lost and found edges like that. And I can touch that up with some hard edges later. And I'm going to now try and handle each and every flower in the same way. Lemon yellow and the orange to get these effects. Let's try that over here for fun, because I've got to experiment to get this right. So I'm going to take some lemon yellow, put it in there, and here, and here. This is my lemon yellow, and all over here. Before I even come back to doing, while I'm at it, let's have some fun with these, because these sorts of bits are the fun bits, aren't they? Let the orange be made with the dropping into the yellow. Quite often the case, we can't make a bright colour by mixing it. Quite often by dropping in it works far better. So these are our soft edges. We're going to come back and add a few harder edges later. You can see a few happening around here, just beginning to happen around here anyway. You can see we can start to bring out the daffodil by having the lights and darks around it. You can see how strong we can go with the blues though. Really picking out some of these stronger colours and tones. And we can use the wet into effects again as well. If it wants to be a bit warmer, then we can add in some more of the deep violet, the lost and found edges, and here we've got some harder edges. As it dries, I can pick them up a bit. Let's get on down to these. Lots of gentle work, but hopefully it will bear its fruit in the end. And the way that the purple is going to drop down into there as well in a moment. But first of all, now then the purple. That's really very vibrant around just here. Hopefully when I get some greens in around the outside, these oranges are going to come out a bit more. So at the moment I'm just working these very, very light greens just a bit before I add on top of this any washes that I want. Okay, so I'm going to come back into these flowers and pick them out a little bit more later. At the moment I just want to get some basic washes into here, so I'll take some very light green and just wash that in and around, and then we're going to let some lovely wet into wet effects happen across this. Right, we'll start working into these with some lovely deep bluey greens now, I reckon. Now I want to go to a very warm green. I'm going to take some burnt sienna, cobalt, and let's really try and find some of these lovely darks that are happening around the petals of the daffodils here. Get these effects of crisscross grasses. I can go darker than that still, yes, I'm not done yet by any means. And I've got to do this while it's all still wet enough as well. That takes a bit of doing. Let's hope this is working for you. You can get the idea of it at least. It's a traditional way of working. And that's one of the beauties of these Russian paints, is they have got some lovely thick, heavy, dark pigment amongst them we can really pick up on in this way. Now let's go warmer and add some more browns to it, bring out some of the warmth of the browns and reds against this, because that should help to pick out the cools. Now let's come back in and totally wet the edges, soften all of this down around here. Right, now at this stage we can just start to maybe lift out one or two bits here and there. We'll just take these leaves and just try to lift one or two sharper edges out here and there, just to get the feeling of these leaves a bit better. Drag out some leaf shapes amongst these marks that we've made. Kind of with that flower just a little bit too much just there, so to try and take that back out a little bit, that's better. Okay, we've got painting dried off. Now I want to find a smaller brush and just come back in and just tidy up with a few sharper edges here and there. I don't want to overdo this, but I do want to just see if I can just bring out some of these forms a little more. And it's another way of working. So we've worked with more detail at the beginning rather than the end, and then go on very, very loosely, and then come back, and we're now just tightening up a little bit again on certain areas. So you have to make up your mind which you think is more appropriate for your own taste and likes and dislikes as watercolour, whether you prefer the looser effects or whether a bit tighter. I don't want to go much tighter than this, certainly. This is way tight enough for me and my style, I know that. So I don't want to overwork it too much, otherwise it'll become dead. And I think there's plenty enough going on in it already, to be honest. So maybe I should leave it alone. Maybe I should just bring in a few more colours into here if I can find them. And it's livening the whole thing up, even though it's a fairly heavy watercolour now. It's no longer a light transparent one. I think we'll leave it at that, otherwise we definitely will be overworking it, and I'll just sign it. Just going to bring a little bit more green, slightly green glaze into some of this here, just to soften it. Don't want to kill it, but I do want to soften it back a bit. Well, there we are, slightly overworked. Quite strong colours and not as delicate as many watercolours I've done, but a different kettle of fish. Sometimes I get tempted to experiment. I just want to try a wee experiment on this. I'm just going to take a little bit of pastel and just see what happens. Don't want to overdo it, but it's quite fun, isn't it? If you don't try new things, I mean, I've done pastel and watercolour before, but it was more deliberate than this. So what the hell, nothing to lose except a piece of paper, when you really think about it that way. It's more three-dimensional now. And if I need some deeper blues in there, in fact, as well. It starts a whole new ball game up now. So it was acceptable before. We could have left it at that. Equally, it's rather fun putting in these extra little highlights and playing with these. That's interesting to use a bit of light green here in amongst those flowers. It brings them out. Sometimes easier to see colour if you're working like this than it is. And the whole ball game changes from an ordinary watercolour into something quite a beast in its own right. I think I actually prefer it now, although it's taken it away from being what it was, a watercolour. It's still mixed medium now rather than watercolour. And one colour like that can just change the whole thing. Green's what we've got, which is making the others, the pink, stand out, and suddenly this weird blue makes it work. I think we're about there suddenly. It's amazing how quickly something can come together. But right, there we go. We'll photograph that and call that a day. So what we can do by adding some pastels to a watercolour that maybe had lost itself a bit,